Welcome to Whispers of History, a channel where we slow time down and gently wander through forgotten corridors of the past. If your eyes are tired or your heart just needs stillness, you're exactly where you need to be. Tonight, we'll drift into the palace courtyards of old Korea, not the thrones and war rooms, but the quiet corners, the folded papers, the unsent letters, the places where stories whisper instead of shout. As a gentle reminder, go ahead and like this video if it brings you peace, and subscribe if you'd like to visit more hushed pages of history. I'd love if you commented your current time and where you're listening from. It's always beautiful to know where in the world we're quietly connecting. Now let's ease into tonight's journey. The lamps are lit, the air is still, and a pair of soft sandals patters down a polished corridor. You probably won't make it through this day, not because it's too eventful, but because it's just so very soft. Well, let's begin. You wake before the light does. The paper walls around you blush faintly with the approaching sun, a soft peach that warms the rice glue seams. You've already folded 3 cranes before your feet hit the cool floor. It's a habit. The first one always comes out wrinkled, the second slightly better, and the third usually a keeper. As outside, the early courtyard sounds begin. Wooden brooms scraping stone, water sloshing from buckets, and the subtle creak of a palace door that always needs oiling but somehow never gets it. You are one, and you are not a noble nor a servant. You are a eunuch in the dynasty court, which makes you complicated, neither here nor there. You float between classes, a little like the paper you fold, structured but light. Technically you're staff, but you wear silk, you bow to everyone, and you're invisible. That's the sweet spot. You carry a scroll to the scribe hall, walking slowly past the stone path that curves like a lazy snake between herbal planters. A cat stretches on the tiled roof, ignoring you. A sparrow lands nearby and pecks at something invisible, as if to say, "Same old." Historians still debate whether eunuchs held real power in court or were simply well-dressed go-betweens with good calligraphy. In your case, you mostly fetch paper. But you love paper. You love the weight, the grain, the slight sound it makes when folded at just the right angle. You've made birds, boats, foxes, even a small paper hat for the scribe's grandson, who wears it proudly until someone inevitably tells him it's too delicate. Today's historical fact: dynasty eunuchs were often chosen as children, their fates sealed by poverty or family ambition. Not quite adoption, not quite betrayal. As in today's obscure detail, the palace had a secret tradition. On rainy days, the youngest eunuch would fold a frog out of green paper and hide it beneath the queen's pillow for luck. You did it once. She never mentioned it, but the next day she wore green silk. You stop by the ink hall where the old man who grinds the stones never speaks. He nods once. That means the ink is fine. Though the scroll is delivered, your duty is done. It's not even noon, and somehow you've already been forgotten again. You retreat to the East Wing garden, the part of the palace people seem to forget exists. There's a stone bench nobody uses because it's uneven, and a magnolia tree that leans just enough to create a patch of patterned shade. This is your spot. The cranes come back out. You fold one with long, careful fingers, smoothing each crease with the side of your thumb. A breeze rolls in soft as a yawn. The paper flutters a little, like it's already halfway to flying. Somewhere behind you, someone drops a bowl. The silence that follows is short and wide. You smile faintly. Someone's going to pretend they weren't there. That's the game. You think about the old eunuch who trained you Sunwoo. He used to say, "A folded crane is worth more than a folded complaint." Not everyone's a poet, but the man had a point. It's said that some eunuchs became royal spies. Quiet, unnoticed, everywhere. That might sound thrilling to someone who's never had to memorize what side the queen's tea should be served from. But there are secrets in silence. And you, without ever asking, have learned more about the court than most ministers. Who favors whom? Which lantern stays lit late? Which chamber doors stay shut far too often? Today's historical fact: the eunuchs had their own internal hierarchy with rankings, titles, and even exams. Yes, exams, as if a life of service wasn't already a test. You passed yours, mostly because your handwriting is immaculate and your memory is terrifying. The weird cultural tidbit: there was a belief that if a eunuch folded 1,000 cranes in his lifetime, he would return as a scholar in the next. No one knows where that came from. Possibly the kitchen staff. Possibly just someone who needed an excuse for all the paper missing from the archives. You finish crane number 4. This one's good. You name it Gentle Wind and set it on the bench beside you. And then you sit, you just sit. That perhaps is the real power, to do nothing beautifully. You stay on that uneven bench long enough for the sun to move, and the shade to shift, and the paper crane to tip slightly, as if bowing to you in slow motion. The magnolia's petals are beginning to open now. Just barely, you wouldn't notice unless you were truly still. One of them unfolds like a yawn, no rush, no need to impress. Nature doesn't audition, it just is. Someone else finally walks past the edge of the garden. A junior clerk, probably chasing a missing seal or a misfiled petition. He sees you, hesitates, then decides you're not worth explaining to anyone. Good. You remain furniture in the palace's eyes, and furniture never causes problems. You reach into your sleeve and pull out a tiny scrap of red paper. Rare. Taken from an envelope no one opened because the sender died before it arrived. You're not supposed to take scraps, but the archivist turns a blind eye to anything under 3 fingers wide. This one becomes a fox, trickier folds. The nose never wants to stay sharp, but you get it right on the 3rd try. Historically speaking, red paper was reserved for official notices, royal commands, and bad news. No one sent birthday cards in red. No one proposed marriage in red, but you being you think it's rather cheerful. The fox agrees. It looks smug already. Somewhere nearby, a flute begins to play. Not a full song. Just the drifting notes of a court musician practicing scales. It mixes with the scent of warm stone and old tea leaves. It's the kind of moment you don't write down because no one would believe it was real. You remember Sunwoo again, how he used to scold you for sitting too long. Still water draws insects, he'd say, shaking his cane. But later, when you left the room, you'd find him sitting in that exact same spot, folding paper turtles, his secret vice. Now, today's historical fact. The court had over 100 eunuchs at any given time, each assigned to specific roles: chamber service, library maintenance, ceremonial assistance, secretarial work, even astronomy. Yes, some eunuchs read the stars, you however read moods. Equally dangerous. An obscure cultural detail. In rare festivals, eunuchs would perform fan dances, usually in winter, when spirits were said to gather in the palace halls. No one clapped, that was the point. It wasn't for applause. It was to remind everyone that beauty could come from shadows too. Though the flute fades, the garden quiets again. You lay the red fox on the stone beside the crane. They look like they belong in different stories. Maybe they are. You lean back, let your eyes close for just a moment, and breathe. No, not sleep, just permission. When you open your eyes again, the light has deepened. Late afternoon carries a different kind of silence, thicker, more golden. It hums through the corridors like the echo of something almost forgotten. You rise slowly, joints murmuring like old doors. The fox and crane stay behind. Not everything needs to be carried. You walk toward the document pavilion, which smells always of pine wood dust and whatever incense someone tried to burn last week but forgot to extinguish fully. The floors are polished to the point of slipping. Someone once broke a tooth here. There was a scandal. No one ever fixed the floor. The scribe master, a man whose eyebrows have long since given up on symmetry, waves you over with a brush in his hand. "Ah, one," he says, as if you haven't passed him every morning for the past 7 years. "We need a record of the third princess's poetry competition." Of course, the princess who writes poems in triplets and laughs only when no one's listening. You bow and take the paper and inkstone, retreating to the corner desk, your desk, though technically no one assigned it. You simply sat there enough times that the wood bears your elbow mark. Your handwriting is quiet. It doesn't try to impress. But it's elegant in its humility, like a good servant or a silent apology. "Oh, you right. My petals fall like stolen glances, although no one dares to meet my gaze. Though the moon at least looks back." You pause, that third line wasn't hers, that was yours. You smile faintly and adjust it. She'd never know, or maybe she would. She has your same habit of folding napkins when nervous. Perhaps you're not so different after all. And today's historical fact: royal women in the court were often taught poetry not just for art's sake but as a form of subtle diplomacy. A good metaphor could save a war or at least a marriage. The weird detail: some eunuchs kept hidden journals where they'd rewrite court poetry to improve it, adding secret commentary, hidden jokes, or satirical lines in invisible ink. Only 2 such books have ever been found. The rest, likely burned or cleverly disguised as cookbooks. You finish the transcription. Your fingers ache a little, not much. just enough to remind you you're still made of living things. A soft knock on the door. It's one of the lower stewards holding a tray of evening rice and dried radish soup. He places it near you, nods once, and leaves without a word. No one needs to speak. This isn't drama, this is ritual. You eat slowly. The rice is warm, the radish soft, the broth too salty in a way that reminds you of someone's mistake. Probably the cook's apprentice again. He always mixes up the sea salt with the pickling brine. You don't complain, you've eaten worse. Besides, the salt pulls memory from your tongue. You think of rainy days in your village before the palace. The way your mother used to dry fish on the roof. You used to steal them. You were terrible at hiding the smell. Historians still debate whether eunuchs retained family ties after joining court life. Some letters suggest yes. Others silence. Your own story. Well, you haven't written to your family in 12 years. And yet, you still remember how your father held chopsticks like he was afraid they'd snap. You place the bowl back on the tray and wipe your hands on your sleeve. Not proper, but convenient. As outside the lamps are being lit, the courtyards begin to glow. The palace shifts from duty to dreaming, you can feel it. And in your pocket, a new piece of paper waits. Pale blue, faintly perfumed. As it will become something tonight, you don't know what yet. That's the joy of folding. Well, you don't start with a plan, you begin with a crease. And then the rest follows. Night in the palace does not fall, it softens. As it begins with a hush, an unspoken pact among the walls, the floors, and the feet that walk them. Lanterns flicker into being one by one like old stars being coaxed back into the sky. Shadows stretch long across stone and silk. You walk slowly now, a scroll in one hand and a new idea in the other. Not a thought, really, more like an itch behind the ribs. You don't know what you'll fold tonight, but you do know where. There's a room in the West Annex, rarely used, with a broken door that only closes if you lift it slightly before pushing. It used to be part of the astronomy wing, back when the stars were considered a kind of royal ledger. Now it's mostly used for storage, boxes of incense, forgotten pillows, and 2 broken kites someone was too sentimental to throw away. That's where you go when your mind won't settle. The floor is dusty but clean in the corners where the wind can't reach. A candle stands by the windowsill, its wax melted into something that looks suspiciously like a goat. You don't light it. The moon will do. You sit with your legs tucked under you and lay the blue paper on your lap. It's thick. Expensive. Someone probably meant to use it for a wedding announcement or a royal apology. Those look the same in this place. You crease slowly, listening to the wood groan above. It might rain soon. Palace roofs talk before the clouds do. You once swore you heard one sigh. Sunwoo insisted that meant a storm was coming. This time the folds take on a curve, not a bird, not a box. You let your hands follow instinct, not memory. The paper resists once, then gives in. A fish, no, a lotus, the shape is simple, the intention is not. You pause halfway through. Something about this one feels like it's watching you back. Now, today's historical fact: lotus flowers were symbols of purity in Korea, often embroidered onto robes, painted onto scrolls, and folded into lanterns during the annual Buddha's birthday festival. Even the Queen's private prayer book had a lotus drawn on every other page, though no one knows who put them there. As obscure detail, some court eunuchs, despite Confucian norms, quietly practiced forms of folk Buddhism, folding lotuses not for beauty but as secret wishes for rebirth into a freer life. One court record mentions a eunuch caught whispering prayers into paper petals before burning them. His punishment: relieved of night duty. The monks had friends in quiet places. You finish the fold. It sits in your palm like something breathing. You don't name this one. Some creations don't ask for names. You place it on the sill. It glows in the moonlight, a little defiant. Outside, the courtyard is empty, not quiet, empty. There's a difference. Your bones creak slightly as you stand. Your knees have opinions about floor sitting. As you close the door, lifting, then pushing its size, the sound of secrets being kept. You make your way back to your chamber slowly. You are not in a rush. This life does not reward rushing. No one thanks the breeze for arriving early. The halls are lit now by hanging lanterns shaped like peaches. A gift from the Chinese envoy years ago. They're too round, not at all like real peaches, but they glow in a charming, lopsided way. A rat scurries ahead of you, then vanishes under a stairwell. You nod at it like an old acquaintance. The palace has many residents. Only some are on the payroll. As you pass the library, you hear muffled laughter. Two junior scribes, likely exchanging gossip disguised as poetry. You smile barely. There's nothing more dangerous than metaphor in the wrong hands. You reach your room, slide the door open. It clicks softly shut behind you. Folded cranes line your shelf, not displayed, just resting, like small dreams caught mid-flight. And beneath your pillow, a green frog, folded by someone else. The morning arrives on the breath of birds. You wake not to the sound of gongs or footsteps, but the soft protest of a magpie outside your window, arguing with a leaf. The frog is still under your pillow. You slide it out slowly, turning it in your hands. The folds are sharp, confident, not a beginner, someone who knows the rhythm. It could be a message, or a game, or maybe, just maybe, it's what it seems, a mirror held up to your quiet habits. A sign you're not as invisible as you thought. You dress in layers. The inner robe is pale gray, the outer one a deep plum. Not because you like plum, but because the fabric was left behind by a palace tailor who died last winter. You asked to keep it. No one objected. Mourning has its perks. You step outside. The air is cool and clean in that particular way. It only is after you've cried in your sleep without knowing why. You head to the calligraphy wing where a new decree needs copying. Something about rice quotas. Something no one will read unless it's miswritten. On the way, you pass a young maid carrying a tray of fruit. She's walking too carefully, back too straight. She's new, you nod politely. She stares too long, then blushes and hurries on. Though that's when it hits you. She folded the frog. You don't know how you know, but you know. And suddenly you are 15 again, learning your first folds under the old moonlight with Sunwoo smacking your wrist every time your crease wandered. Control the paper, he said, or it will control you. You never told him it was the wandering that made the folds come alive. Now you smile despite yourself, a real full one. Today's historical fact. While romantic relationships were forbidden for eunuchs, emotional attachments were common and complex. Some formed lifelong friendships with maids, guards, or fellow eunuchs, exchanging notes in folded forms. There are even records of eunuchs accused of emotional transgressions, a crime as vague as it is inevitable. A obscure detail. In some quiet corners of the palace there was an unspoken tradition. If someone placed a folded frog in your room, it meant they saw something beautiful in your silence. Not love, not even admiration, just recognition. That alone could undo a day. You finish the rice quota decree with perfect ink. No smudges, no flair, just accuracy steady as breaths. Though the master scribe compliments your penmanship, it sounds like acceptable. That's a promotion. You bow and step away. By noon, you're back in your garden spot. The bench is warm now. You sit beside yesterday's crane and fox. The blue lotus is gone. In its place, a single folded paper star. You don't even pretend not to smile this time. This day will be remembered, not by the historians, not in scrolls, but by you. And maybe, just maybe, by her too. The star rests in your palm like it belongs there. It's small, tight, precisely folded, a perfect little contradiction. You turn it slowly between your fingers, feeling the indentations from another's hands. Someone took time with this. Someone took care. That's rarer than affection in this place. You don't rush to guess its meaning. You've lived too long in the palace to mistake every small gesture for a secret, but still it feels like a reply. A nod across the void. You haven't spoken to her, you likely never will. But the paper folds carry their own language, and for now that is enough. You tuck the star gently into your sleeve in the seam where your hand naturally curls when you walk. Close but hidden, it deserves that kind of privacy. As the sun rises higher, you're sent to the inner court to assist with the inventory of ceremonial lanterns. Not your usual duty, but you're trusted with details. And more importantly, you don't talk too much. That makes you a favorite by omission. The lanterns are stacked in rows, their bamboo frames fragile, their silk sides embroidered with cranes, chrysanthemums, and abstract swirls that might once have been dragons before the artist got tired. They smell of old fire and mothballs. You kneel beside the steward of ritual, who insists on muttering every count aloud even though he's holding the tally stick upside down. You do not correct him. You gently hold out your palm for the stick, rotate it, and place it back in his hand. He grunts in satisfaction, never realizing you saved the queen's lanterns from being miscounted as garden spares. Now, today's historical fact: royal lanterns during the era weren't just decorations. Each had a function guiding spirits during festivals, symbolizing specific virtues in ceremonies or honoring ancestors during the Confucian rites. Some were reused for decades. Others were ceremonially burned after one night. An odd cultural tidbit: there was a minor scandal during the reign of King when a lantern painted with twin phoenixes was mistakenly placed in a burial chamber instead of a temple. It was seen as an omen, though whether of rebirth or confusion no one could agree. The artist was sent to the provinces to find meaning in landscape. He returned 7 years later with a beard and a painting of a mountain that looked suspiciously like a fish. You finish the inventory without comments. The steward thanks you with a nod that may also have been a neck stretch. Either way, it counts. You leave the inner court slowly, the scent of lantern silk still clinging to your robes. There's a wind picking up, and the trees near the west wall are shedding petals as if they've decided spring is too heavy to carry anymore. As you pass the corner where the kitchen staff dump rice water into the garden beds, you notice a folded paper shape perched delicately on a half-buried stone. Oh, rabbit. You pause. Oh, it's not yours, it's not hers. It's different, more angular, more precise. Someone else has joined the conversation. You pick it up, on the underside written in the faintest brush lines. Oh, even rabbits can run between shadows. You look around, no one in sight. And just like that, your world, once small and folded neatly, starts to widen. That evening, the sky refuses to settle. Clouds shift like arguments overhead, soft, then sharp, then soft again. It doesn't rain, but it threatens to. The kind of sky that makes old bones ache and candles burn sideways. You find yourself wandering without direction, not out of confusion but curiosity. There are too many folds now: crane, fox, frog, stars, lotus, rabbit. What began as a private ritual has become something else. A network. A quiet, papery rebellion. You stop by the palace well, which hasn't been used in years. The stone lip is cracked, and a fern has claimed one side as its personal estate. But someone has tied a string of folded shapes to the wooden beam above it. A fox, a fish, a boat, a star. You stand beneath them. They sway in the wind, making the faintest music, paper against paper, like dry leaves learning how to whisper. Someone else is watching you. You feel it before you see her. The maid from before. She stands just beyond the arch, her eyes lowered respectfully, hands folded in front of her apron. But her sleeves tremble slightly. Not fear, not cold, something else. You bow first, slowly, deliberately. The language you share does not need words. She nods. Then she walks away. Not hurriedly, not shyly, just away, as if her message had already been delivered. You stand at the well a moment longer, then reach up and untie one of the folded boats. You smooth its sides. Inside a poem. The moon sails slower when no one looks up. Today's historical fact: court maids and eunuchs in Korea were often discouraged from forming personal bonds, even friendships. The palace system thrived on silence, efficiency, and obedience. But beneath the surface, there was an entire undercurrent of quiet alliances, folded notes, glances exchanged at the edge of vision. An obscure tidbit: some palace corridors were considered memory lanes, paths where people walked slowly not because of rules, but because of who they might pass. A well-known superstition claimed that if two people passed the same spot at sunset 3 days in a row, they would dream of each other on the fourth night. The records don't confirm this, but the corridors stayed busy around dusk. As you make your way back, you feel your steps slowing. Every lantern, every corridor corner, every garden wall now feels awake, watching, participating. You stop by your bench again. The crane and the fox are gone. In their place, a folded hand mirror made of silver-edged parchment. You pick it up carefully. On the back, inked in practiced brushwork. You see everyone. Do you see yourself? Your breath catches again. This is not just play. This is something else now. The folds have become mirrors. Messages. And you are not just a maker. You are part of the patterns. There's something about a folded mirror that doesn't let go. You carry it back to your room like it's made of glass. The paper is slightly stiffer than you'd expect, thicker, treated, handmade, probably mulberry. The kind scribes hoard and painters call temperamental. It doesn't like to fold, which means someone wrestled with it. You sit on the edge of your floor mat, the mirror still in your palm, the ink still damp around the edge. You see everyone. Do you see yourself? It isn't a riddle, it's a nudge, a tap between the ribs. You don't answer it, not out loud, but you feel it settle into your spine like a grain of rice in a bowl of silence. The palace is quieter than usual tonight. No flute in the distance. No footsteps in the hall. Just wind and wood and the memory of someone's hands folding something they meant for you. You remember Sunwoo once told you a story about a eunuch who folded a bird so perfectly it was said to have flown from his hand and never returned. It's a metaphor, Sunwoo had grumbled, but if you fold well enough, someone might believe you can fly too. You reach for your own paper, but your hands hesitate. Suddenly it feels presumptuous, like adding your voice to a song you've only just learned the melody of. So instead, you light a candle. And then you'd just sit. Not making, not fixing, just being. That's rarer than anyone admits. Today's historical fact: some eunuchs in the dynasty, especially those who remained in service for decades, were eventually allowed to build shrines to their ancestors within the palace grounds, a rare privilege. A few even created private libraries, their names carved in tiny brush strokes onto the beams. Not to boast, just to be remembered. This obscure tidbit: There was a belief, possibly started by a lonely monk, that folded paper figures absorbed memory. That the more folds a figure had, the more of you it held. In some circles, paper birds were buried with the dead, carrying a life's quiet moments into the next world. You lie down slowly, folding your arms across your chest. Not like a corpse, but like someone guarding a secret. The mirror rests on the floor beside your pillow. While you stare at it, it doesn't blink, but it waits. While the next morning, something is different. You feel it before you rise. The air is warmer, more awake. The world seems to lean forward slightly, like it's waiting for you to speak. When you sit up, the mirror is gone. In its place, folded tightly, standing tall on 4 delicate legs, is a horse. You haven't folded a horse in years, too many tricky layers. You remember the last one, a pale tan scrap folded during a fire drill just to pass the time. You, given it to a child you never saw again. But this horse is better, more detailed, lean, balanced, and beneath its belly a tiny square of ink. We are all messengers, but only some know what they carry. You exhale softly, almost laugh, almost. You dress faster today, not out of obligation but momentum. Something is building, not loud, not obvious, but real. You are sent to the Queen Dowager's quarters to assist with the seasonal tapestry cataloging. A quiet job. Long hours, heavy fabric, detailed records. You're the kind of person they assign when they need precision without presence. The Queen Dowager herself does not appear. She rarely does. Instead, her steward, a woman older than spring, with hands that never stop adjusting things, guides you through each piece. This one, she says, pointing at a red and gold dragon, was stitched during the second lunar harmony. You nod, you already know. The stitching style crossed thread over single silk was only used for 6 years. The gold is fading, but the eyes still gleam. You take notes, she says, more command than invitation. You do. Your brush glides smoothly, your characters slender and tall. You're proud of them. Not because they're beautiful, but because they don't try to be. Now, today's historical fact: royal tapestries in Korea were not merely decorative. They marked political eras, celebrated celestial alignments, or preserved secret symbols known only to the inner court. Some carried embedded codes stitched into the thread count, messages disguised as patterns, meant only for the eyes of those who knew how to read fabric. An obscure detail: one tapestry in the West Library, long mislabeled as River Dream, was recently discovered to be a hand-drawn map of an underground escape route beneath the palace. No one knows who designed it. The passage has long since collapsed, but the tapestry still hangs, slightly crooked, as if winking. The steward steps away to take tea. You remain beside a folded screen depicting the 10 symbols of longevity. Cranes, pine trees, peaches, rivers, all painted in smiling inks. You reach into your robe and remove the horse. You set it beside the symbols. It looks like it belongs, not as decoration, as punctuation. That evening, you return to your room to find a folded envelope made of black paper. No wax seal, no string. Inside a map. Drawn in delicate brush lines, it shows the palace, but not as you know it. The secret corridors, rooms you've never entered, a garden labeled Moon Pond, though no such pond exists, at least not anymore. And at the center, a single symbol, a folded paper crane drawn with 10 perfect lines. Now you turn the envelope over, written in silver ink. Not all paths are walked. Now you fold the map, you place it under your mat. Then you lie back, staring at the ceiling, letting the weight of paper and memory hold you in place. Though there's something shifting beneath this palace. And you are no longer just a folder of cranes. Now you are part of the story. Now you don't sleep easily that night, not because of fear, but because of the quiet. Oh, it's too quiet. Not the usual hush of sleeping courtyards or the murmur of nighttime wind. This is something deeper, the stillness of a room holding its breath, the kind of silence that waits for a choice. While you shift under your blanket, the map tucked just beneath your shoulder. You don't touch it, you don't need to, its presence is loud enough. Eventually, you drift off, not into sleep, but into something softer, like a boat resting in shallow water. You dream of corridors that fold like paper, of doors that open without sound, of someone folding a crane that flutters its wings with each breath. You follow it, but your legs are made of paper too. You crumple, you fall, you laugh. So when you wake, it's not yet dawn, but you rise anyway. You move through your morning like a shadow, wash, dress, fold a napkin for no reason other than muscle memory. Your hands are steadier than your thoughts. By the time the rest of the palace stirs, you are already walking slowly, deliberately toward a part of the grounds you've never entered. You bring the map tucked into your sash. You do not run. Running is for urgency. This is ritual. You pass under a corridor of peach blossom tiles. No one notices you. You have been preparing your whole life to go unseen. Eventually, you reach the place marked Moon Pond. Though there is no pond, but there is a hollow, a sunken garden long overgrown, its edges crumbling into moss and dry roots. It smells of stone and memory, and in its center a small pile of folded paper creatures. Dozens, cranes, frogs, fish, even a tiger with one bent leg. So someone has been here many times. You kneel beside the pile, fingers hovering. These are not yours, they are offerings, messages, evidence. One catches your eye, a folded moth, its wings flecked with gold ink. On the underside, barely visible. Some things only bloom underground. While you sit back slowly. You're not alone. Not just now, but in this life. And in this role. And in this silence you've made into a home. Today's historical fact. During the later years of the dynasty, the palace's hidden gardens were often maintained not by official groundskeepers, but by low-ranking attendants and eunuchs who found solace among the weeds. These gardens were unrecorded, unclaimed by the bureaucracy. But they held festivals in secret, midnight flower viewings, shadow puppet plays, even full moon dances with no audience but the sky. An obscure detail. In one old eunuch's memoir, there's a single sentence. The queen never came, but her slippers did. No historian knows what that means. But slipper impressions were found in the soil near a collapsed well once used as a wishing place. You remain in the garden until your knees ache. You do not take any of the folds, you leave one of your own, a fox. You write nothing on it, the silence is enough. As you walk back to the main quarters, your hands feel emptier than usual. Not because you've lost anything, but because now you carry something larger. An invitation. No, not to solve a mystery, but to continue it. Later that afternoon, as sunlight pools in the courtyards like gold spilled from a slow hand, you're assigned to the Hall of Records. You know the place well. It's where scrolls go to be forgotten. The high-ceilinged chamber filled with rows upon rows of lacquered drawers, each labeled in ink that has long since faded to charcoal gray. The scent of dust here is not unpleasant. It smells of quiet things. Old things, trusted things. You're not alone. An older eunuch, Bae, works at the opposite end. He doesn't speak unless he needs to, which is perfect. Words are too sharp today. You're tasked with organizing a bundle of tax records from the year of the blue snake, which, by the look of the scrolls, was a year that involved too much barley and not enough patience. You sit cross-legged, sorting by region, then by stamp. The paper is brittle. One bad fold and it could break apart. Your hands know how not to break things. Halfway through the stack, you find something strange. Tucked between two ledgers, a folded piece of paper, triangular, sealed with a single hairpin pressed flat. You glance around. Bae is busy muttering to himself about someone's handwriting. You open it. And inside a drawing. Crude but familiar. The moon pond garden, a fox, a crane, a rabbit, a star, and in the center a mirror. Beneath it, in the simple script, I come when the wind returns, bring only what cannot be written. You reread the line 3 times. You fold the message back. You press it between your robes against your heart. You leave the scrolls half-sorted. Bae doesn't notice. Or maybe he pretends not to. That's the closest thing to permission you'll get. Though that night the wind does returns. It arrives slowly, rustling through the hallways, tugging at the lanterns. It smells like distant rain and something almost sweet, like peeled bark or forgotten cinnamon. You step outside, you carry nothing, no brush, no scroll, just yourself, and the folds inside your memory. The palace doesn't stop you. It has seen many things. It knows how to look the other way. You walk without looking back. Through the lower corridors, past the kitchens, past the plum tree that blooms too early every year. Back to the sunken garden. Oh, it looks different at night. The shadows are deeper, the air colder, but the paper creatures glow faintly under the moonlight like they remember being part of someone's story. And at the center, seated cross-legged, is her. The maid. The one who folded the frog. She's older than you thought. Maybe your age, maybe older. But her face is calm, her hands are in her lap. And she looks up as you approach as if she's been expecting you not just today but always. You say nothing. She doesn't need you to. And instead, she opens her palm. A folded crane, but with something inside. She hands it to you. You unfold it carefully. It's inside a single phrase written in invisible ink, revealed only by the moonlight's touch. Fold with me. You sit beside her. You do not speak. Together, you take out blank papers. And in silence, the folding begins. One crease at a time. No, not answers, not confessions. Just this: shared hands, shared paper, shared breath. The night leans closer. The palace holds still. And for the first time in a very long time, you feel seen not as a whisper, but as a person. The sound of paper folding at night is unlike any other sound. It is softer than silk, slower than breath. It is the hush of one intention meeting another. You and she sit beneath a sky that feels lower than usual. The moon hangs like a lantern left on for someone who hasn't yet come home. A breeze rolls lazily through the sunken garden, rustling the paper animals around you as if they too are settling in to listen. She doesn't ask your name, you don't ask hers. The names in this moment feel unnecessary, too rigid, too finished. What you are building together has no label. It is not friendship, not romance, not alliance. It is something folded, layer by layer, into being. The first figure you create together is a tortoise. Her folds are sharp and precise, yours are curved and forgiving. The result is imperfect, but it feels alive. She sets it beside the others. It does not stand out, it fits. You glance sideways at her hands. They are calloused in places yours are not, kitchen work perhaps, or tending coals, but the way she handles paper tells you more. She's folded hundreds, maybe thousands, not as pastimes, but as messages, apologies, dreams. The second figure is a butterfly. You fold this one together, your fingers brush, not deliberately, but not by accident either. The moment is not romantic, but it is sacred. You realize you haven't spoken aloud in hours. So when she finally says something, it feels like thunder. Do you remember your first fold? You do. The crumpled crane made from a discarded page of a broken poem. Sunwoo had laughed so hard he snorted tea out his nose. It's flying sideways, he said, like a drunk ghost. You smile at the memory. You nod, it was terrible. She laughs quietly, mine too. You want to ask more where she learned, why she folds, who taught her, but you don't, because silence is working, and you don't interrupt a good rhythm when it's just begun. Now, today's historical fact: in Korea, folding paper was not always an art form. For the lowest ranks of the court, it began as utility, wrapping herbs, sealing jars, protecting dried flowers. But among eunuchs and maids, it transformed into a secret code. Certain folds meant different things. A bird could mean longing. A frog meant protection. A fox meant watch yourself. A lotus, forgiveness. An obscure cultural tidbit: there was a superstition among older maids that if you folded a butterfly under the full moon, your next dream would reveal someone you had forgotten but still loved. Many maids dreamed of their mothers. A few dreamed of themselves, smiling in ways they hadn't in years. You finish the butterfly, she lifts it gently, sets it between two foxes from earlier. Oh, you fold with curved thumbs, she says. Oh, you blink, what does that mean? She smiles, you're kind. You pause, you've been called many things. Silent, efficient, invisible, never kind. Oh, you don't know what to say. So you fold another bird. She follows. Together, you build a small, quiet army of paper things. Oh, each one says something neither of you dares to put into words. The breeze grows colder, but you don't feel it. Well, you have paper and each other. And for now, that is warmth enough. By the time dawn begins to stain the edge of the garden with pale silver, you've folded more than 20 figures between you. They sit in a neat, wandering line across the stone. A procession, a pilgrimage. You can't name what you're feeling, but it's the opposite of loneliness. Not joy, not quite peace either. Oh, it's being witnessed. The world does not often allow people like you that luxury. Eunuchs, maids, workers of silence, you exist in the corners of stories. But now here in this hidden place, you are center stage, not to perform, but simply to be. She rises slowly, joints stiff. You do the same. You both stare down at your paper trail. It looks like a story, she murmurs. It is, you reply, we just don't know the ending yet. She turns to you, and for the first time her face is fully lit by the early light. There's something in her eyes, something sad and fierce and whole. A history she hasn't spoken. I used to fold for someone, she says. He was sent away. The last thing I gave him was a tiger. You nod, not because you know her story, but because you know that kind of loss. The kind you fold around like paper until it looks like something else. Oh, do you want to leave the palace? She asks. Though the question is not sudden, it has been hovering between you for hours. You think about it, about the life beyond these walls. The world outside, the markets, the trees, the places where names matter less than footsteps. I don't know, you say honestly. I've only ever lived inside folds. She looks down at your shared work. Then maybe we just need to fold a door. Today's historical fact: There are scattered rumors, mostly in folk songs and second-hand journals, of eunuchs who vanished from court life, only to reappear years later as monks, merchants, or poets. Some say they escaped. Others say they were quietly dismissed and forgotten. The records never confirm, but one document never officially filed mentions a eunuch who left behind only a single folded bridge made of gold-dusted paper. No name, no explanation. An obscure cultural note. Among certain folding traditions, there exists a mythical design called the door fold. No one agrees on what it looks like. Some say it's a bird with hidden wings. Others say it's a flower that never opens. Legend says if two people fold it at the same time, facing each other, they will find their path opened, whether it leads outward, inward, or somewhere in between. You walk her back through the hidden paths, skirting the early kitchen staff and the slow-waking scribes. When you part ways beneath the covered arch near the laundry wing, she presses something into your hand. A single sheet of pale gray paper. "I'll wait," she says, "when you fold it." Then she's gone. You return to your room. You do not eat, you do not lie down. You sit, and you stare at the paper. It is thicker than usual, smooth, cold. You breathe it in, and with fingers slower than usual, gentler than they've ever been. You fold. Not a bird, not a fox, not even a mirror. You don't know what it's becoming. But for the first time in all your years, you are not folding to be forgotten. You are folding to become. The paper doesn't resist you. It hesitates, it holds its breath, it waits. You hold it gently, letting your thumb trace the grain. It's firmer than anything you've folded before, with a faint sheen like it remembers water or moonlight or both. Whatever this fold is going to become, it doesn't belong to a known shape, not yet. You don't begin with a plan, you begin with a crease. A slow one, centered, precise. Then a second, diagonal, not traditional, not even symmetrical. Your hands act before you fully think, not mindless, just deeper than thought. The quiet of your chamber amplifies every soft press of finger to paper. The world outside doesn't knock. It rarely does. You are a eunuch. People only come looking when something is missing. Right now, nothing is missing, except maybe the version of yourself you were yesterday. You don't fold with the goal of living. Not yet, but the idea is there, pressed lightly behind your ribs like a secret prayer. A door, maybe, a bridge, a key. You don't know what the finished fold will be, but you know it's already been waiting for you. As outside, rain begins, soft, persistent, threading through the eaves of the palace like fingers combing a sleeping child's hair. You pause only once to look out the window. The courtyard glistens. The magnolia leaves bow low under the weight of water. The peach blossoms haven't fallen yet. They're stubborn that way. You return to your paper, fold, turn, fold again. Halfway through, you stop. The shape in your hands is unfamiliar. It has too many corners, too many shadows. It looks almost like a wing or a fan or a shell. but it also looks like something trying to protect itself. While you stare at it, and then delicately, almost reverently, you unfold it. So sometimes becoming isn't about creation. It's about understanding what you've already made. And today's historical fact: among the rare arts practiced in private by eunuchs, one of the most mysterious was called shadow folding, a form of origami without formal patterns, said to be intuitive, symbolic, and always done at night. Only 3 known examples survive. They're kept in a museum in Seoul, stored flat, labeled unknown. Scholars debate whether they were just decorative, or prayers, or warnings. A obscure cultural note: in certain small villages during the late 17th century, folded paper was believed to be a medium between the world of the living and the world of memory. People would write their regrets on slips of silk-threaded paper, fold them into unreadable shapes, and place them in running water. If the folds unraveled before vanishing downstream, it meant the spirit had accepted the apology. You hold the almost fold in your lap. You stroke its edge with one finger. You don't start over, but you don't continue. Instead, you leave it half-formed, alive in motion, unfinished, like the day. Later, just before dusk, you return to the sunken garden. The rain has stopped. The earth is damp but welcoming. The folded creatures from before glisten slightly, as if someone had brushed them with memory. She is there. She always is lately. This time she brings 2 cups of tea wrapped in cloth to keep them warm. You don't ask how she smuggled them. You don't ask how she knew you'd come. Some questions ruin the magic. You sit beside her in the wet grass, your knees already staining your robe. She passes you a cup, you hold it with both hands. The steam rises slowly. I tried to fold it, you say. Her eyes flick toward you, and I think it folded me. She smiles, not a bright smile, but a whole one. That means you're doing it right. You sip the tea, it tastes of pine and dried orange peel, like something meant for remembering. You both sit in silence. Not absence or presence. The folding hasn't ended, it has merely paused. 2 days pass without a fold. Not because you've stopped, but because something inside you is still unfolding. You move through the palace like always. Light steps, bowed head, quick hands, you deliver scrolls, you pour ink, you nod when spoken to, and never once speak first. But something is different. The air is thicker, like paper soaked in too much mining. You notice things now, not just who walks where, but how they carry their silence. The senior steward of textiles always tugs his sleeves twice before bowing. The scribe with the limp leaves his sandals half untied. The minister's third wife hums a scale before entering a room, like she's tuning herself to survive it. You've spent years unnoticed, and now you can't unsee. The folding has changed you. You meet her again near the far laundry line. It's a poor excuse for a meeting place, but in the palace, every place is a disguise if you stand still long enough. She doesn't speak. She simply slides a folded square into your sleeve between your inner robe and outer sash. Her fingers linger a second too long, not affection, anchoring. You do not unfold it until you're back in your chambers. And inside, a square folded into a cube, seamless, small. On each side, a single brush stroke. No letters, just movement. One swirl, one dot, one slash, one hook, one curve, one pause. You stare at it for a long time before realizing it is a map. Not of the palace, not of the garden. I love you. Each side represents something you've never said aloud. A fear, a longing, a truth, a refusal, a memory, a hope. You unfold one edge carefully. Beneath it, in minuscule ink, you do not need to disappear to become. You press the cube to your chest, and then slowly you begin to cry. You haven't in years. Not because you weren't sad, but because the palace teaches you to weep inward. The only acceptable moisture here is on scrolls and tea leaves. Though the tears are silent, steady, they do not fall like shame, they fall like rain after drought, reluctant, grateful, necessary. You sleep that night without folding anything. But you dream of doors. Thousands of them. Each made of paper. Each one folded slightly differently. Each one waiting for your hand. Today's historical fact. In a lesser-known Confucian commentary from the late 1600s, there's a curious passage describing the paper gate, a symbolic ritual performed by certain eunuchs before their final court retirement. It involved crafting a door from paper, walking through it alone, and burning it behind them, never looking back. Most dismissed it as metaphor. But one record shows a door-shaped ash pile found in a storage room beneath the Royal Academy. No one claimed it. As obscure cultural detail, among former palace staff, the phrase "to walk through paper" became a euphemism for quiet rebellion. It was used by cooks who left mid-shift, by maids who fell in love, by letter carriers who kept a copy for themselves. It meant doing something irreversible softly. The next morning, she is waiting by the magnolia tree. No tea this time, no words, just paper. You bring yours too. She kneels, you kneel beside her. And together, in the shadow of the old wall, you fold. Not an animal, not a mirror, not even a secret. You fold a door. It takes hours. I know one notices. Or maybe they do and choose silence as their gift. When you finish, you lay the folded door between you. You do not open it. You simply bow to it. As if to say, when we are ready, we will pass through. Not to leave everything behind, but to meet who we are becoming. Together. You don't see her the next day. Not in the laundry wing, not in the courtyard, not even in the sunken garden where paper animals now rest like altars. Though the absence doesn't alarm you, it lingers, like unfinished ink drying on the corner of a page. You do your tasks, scroll copying, tea setting, incense arrangement, but your hands are slower, your thoughts wander, and everything you touch feels slightly out of place. Though the door you folded together, still intact, still sealed, waits in your room like a witness, you haven't dared to unfold it. Some things aren't doors in the traditional sense. They're invitations. They wait for readiness, not permission. You return to the garden alone that night. The moon is low. The stars are bright but unconcerned. You sit beside the pond that isn't and fold quietly. A bird, then a tree, then a lamp. Oh, each one smaller than the last. Each one heavier in its silence. While you place them near the paper mirrors. So then you fold your hands in your lap and wait. Oh, eventually footsteps. No, not hers. Another eunuch. Older, stern, someone from the outer kitchens, you think. You've seen him before, sorting roots, carrying buckets, rarely speaking. He's the kind of presence no one notices unless he spills something. Well, he sits down across from you without asking. He holds out a paper square. You take it. As unfold. Is inside one word written slowly, carefully. Remember. You meet his eyes for the first time. And realize he's not warning you. He's welcoming you. This is bigger than you thought. She is not the only ones. You are not the only ones. There are others who fold, others who wait, others who watch. Today's historical fact. In the waning years of the 18th century, a silent uprising took place in the inner palace, one without fire, without blood, without banners. Known now only as the Night of the Folded Flags, it consisted of dozens of paper creatures placed deliberately throughout the court, each one placed in rooms of power, inscribed with messages too soft to be called rebellion. No arrests were made, but several ministers retired that year without explanation. An obscure detail, one of the folded symbols from that night, a paper carp with no eyes, was later found pressed between the pages of a recipe book in the Queen's chambers. On its underside, the phrase, "We are not who you silence." Though the older eunuch nods once, he leaves without another word. You stay. The garden is changing shape, not physically, spiritually. What once was a hiding place is now becoming a meeting ground. And the folds, once just yours, are becoming a language. Not one you invented, but one you were always meant to speak. The next time you see her, she's laughing. It's jarring at first. The sound doesn't belong to the world you've come to know. Its softness, its control, its folded silences. But there she is, beside a cart of steamed buns, head thrown slightly back, eyes half closed, laughing at something the baker's apprentice has said. You don't hear the joke, you don't need to. It's the sound that matters, the proof of aliveness. She notices you, the laugh stops but the warmth lingers. She walks over, no words, just the glint of shared knowing. She slips something into your hand casually, as if passing a dropped hairpin. Then she walks away. You do not look at the paper until you're behind closed doors. You unfold it slowly. A drawing this time. Concludes like before, but unmistakable. It's the palace archive. I circled in red a locked room behind the eastern shelves. A room you didn't know existed. Below the drawing, a single phrase. Some records are kept out of fear. You stare at the paper for a long time. Then you fold it back into a triangle and slip it behind your door frame, wedged where the wood peels slightly. As if something happens to you, someone will find it. Maybe not soon, but eventually. You don't go to the archives that night. That would be too loud, too soon. You wait 3 days. On the third day, the older eunuch passes you a scroll with a wax seal that isn't quite aligned. Inside is a note. A third shelf, fifth drawer, key inside. And so, under the guise of inventory, a task no one volunteers for, you slip into the records chamber. The room is cavernous, dusty, dim, scrolls stacked high, smells of pine resin and forgotten air. You move slowly, carefully, third shelf, fifth drawer. You open it. And inside, a single iron key. No tag, no explanation. Your hands tremble slightly as you pocket it. Behind the shelves, a thin door. You've seen it before but never noticed it. That's how the palace works. It shows you only what it wants you to see. You unlock it. The door creaks open. Inside, darkness. Not frightening. Just undisturbed. You step in. The air is thicker. There are no scrolls. No books. Just boxes. A plain, unlabeled, wrapped in string. You open one. Inside, letters, dozens, hundreds. All unsigned, all written in the same hand. All addressed to no one. You pick one at random. And today I watched the Minister of War spill soup on his decree. He blamed the steward. The steward blamed the bowl. The bowl, I believe, blamed no one. I folded a rabbit to remember this. Another. She smiled at me today, not because she saw me, but because I was in her way and she was being polite. I folded a bridge. I burned it after. Another still. He said we were shadows. I disagree. Shadows move when light touches them. We are more than that. I folded a mirror to prove it. Though these are not records. Though these are lives. Are preserved, folded, hidden. Our testimonies in metaphor. Rebellion in whisper. And then suddenly it becomes clear. She didn't send you here for the key. She sent you here for the mirror. Not the one of paper. The one in you. Today's historical fact. There's a lost document referenced only once in a banned Confucian commentary, The Chronicle of Soft Power. Said to be a journal compiled by eunuchs across generations, it recorded acts of kindness, defiance, compassion, and quiet sabotage. No names, no claims, just stories folded into secrecy, believed to be destroyed in the reign of a paranoid regent. But fragments reappeared centuries later, hidden in puppet heads, sandal soles, and the linings of ceremonial robes. A obscure detail, one of the recovered fragments includes a line thought to be metaphor, but now repeated in fold circle lore. A door does not open until someone becomes the hinge. You close the boxes. You relock the doors. You live without folding anything that day. Because some days are not for creation. They are for recognition. And now you know. This palace holds more than history. It holds memory. And memory in the right hands becomes revolutions. One fold at a time. You return to your chamber with the weight of 1,000 unspoken lives folded beneath your ribs. The boxes in that hidden archive weren't merely records. They were voices, preserved not in ink but in intention. Each letter, each metaphor, each delicate crease, someone once wrote it with their whole being, then folded it quietly, tucked it away, and let it live without witness. Until now. You light a candle. You stare at the door fold, still resting in its corner, untouched since that night in the garden. And for the first time, you feel its shape as something larger than design. It is a memory, a threshold, a promise. You unfold it slowly, not to erase what it meant, but to understand how it was made. The paper still carries the echo of your hands, the pressure of her thumbs, the soft precision of shared breath. As you trace the creases, you notice something you didn't before. On the inner flap, barely visible, a single line written so finely it disappears unless the candle is tilted just so. The first hinge was folded by. You whisper the name aloud. It tastes like wind and soot. You've never heard it spoken in the palace, not even in the records. But the moment you say it, something in the air shifts. A memory not your own stirs beneath your skin. That night you don't sleep. You read more of the letters. You begin to understand the pattern. There were always two, a folder and a witness, a creator and a keeper. The folds were never meant to be solitary. They were meant to be shared. It was never about escaping. It was about being seen, being remembered. That is why the palace feared them. Not because they were dangerous, but because they endured. The next day you ask her. The first moment you're alone together, between laundry lines and silence, you lean in and ask, voice low and deliberate. Who was? She's still. Not like someone caught. Like someone remembered. She takes a moment to answer. Then says he was the first. You wait. She says no more. You don't press. That night, she gives you a folded envelope sealed in wax. Inside a single scroll, not a letter, not a poem, a lesson. The fold of remembrance is not symmetrical. It curves back. It returns to origin. Fold inward first, always inward. The world will ask you to fold out. Don't. The hinge is made from softness. A crease made without intention will never open. A fold made in grief will always hold. Each fold is a name, even if it's never spoken. As at the bottom, Lesson 1, the archive is alive. You sit beside your low table. Roll the scroll flat and trace the lines with your fingers. This isn't resistance in the way history tells it. There are no speeches, no fires, no swords. This is something quieter. The folding of identity so precise, so full of sorrow and clarity, it becomes unburnable. Today's historical fact. While much of Korea's official court history was written by noble scholars, a secondary tradition existed among lower classes, nameless annotation. This form of historical record was anonymous, metaphorical, and passed orally or through coded art. Many palace attendants' authorship would leave symbols etched beneath stone tiles, embroidered into robe linings, or folded into festival decorations. Modern scholars call this unofficial memory. The palace called it disobedience. As obscure detail, there is a rarely studied tapestry in the collection featuring what looks like ordinary floral embroidery. But upon closer inspection, the pattern reveals a sequence of origami folds, each symbol matched to a known story from the oral archives. Hidden inside the hem is a single phrase stitched in golden thread. We were here, we remain. You fold a new piece that night. Not a creature. Not a door. Not a box. You fold a hinge. You don't know how, not fully, but your fingers remember more than you thought possible. When you finish, the shape rests open, not flat, not closed. Waiting. She brings you his name the next night. Not as a story. As a song. You meet beneath the magnolia again. Rain hasn't fallen for days, but the air still smells like stone and thunder. She lays a folded crane beside yours. This one is deep blue, lined with tiny stars painted in silver ink. Or she says softly, his name meant sky. You do not move, you let the name settle. He was the first who folded not to survive, but to speak. You ask nothing. You let her speak, because something in her voice sounds like unraveling silk. He worked in the astronomy wing before the reforms. He wasn't supposed to be there, but he had a mind like maps. She folds a second piece. A spiral. You've never seen this fold before. He discovered the hinge, not just as a shape, as a truth. He said every person has one moment that changes the way they close, and if you fold it just right, you can open again. While you close your eyes, while you feel the shape of that sentence inside you. And he folded messages for people he knew would never read them. He folded stories for the dead. He folded mirrors for those who hated their reflections. Well, what happened to him, you ask? So she doesn't answer for a long time. So then he folded himself into a bird. Though the words make no logical sense, and yet your chest aches with understanding. Oh, he left, you whisper. So she shakes her head. He stayed, but they never found him again. So she opens her palm, inside a folded moths. Oh, this was his last fold, she says. It's been passed hand to hand since that night. You're the next. Oh, you reach for it. Oh, she closes her hand before you can. Oh, you don't get to keep it, she says. You get to remember it. Oh, she places it gently back inside her sleeve. Then she folds a blank sheet, slowly, carefully. A hinge. Like yours. Oh, she sets it beside yours. And when they touch, they open. Fully. Together. A new shape is formed between them. Something like a window. Something like a future. Today's historical fact. The concept of folding as legacy is found not just in court tradition, but in certain temple rites, especially among itinerant scholars. Monks traveling between regions would leave folded figures at the edge of forests or crossroads. Some were shaped like animals, others like abstract glyphs. These were considered signs of safe passage, wisdom exchanged, or silent mentorship. Some temples even kept fold registries scrolls recording the sequence and meaning of every figure made by their brothers. As obscure detail, a single ink stone in the Royal Academy is etched with an unexplained pattern, 7 hinges side by side interlocked like waves. Beneath it the words, "To fold is not to reduce, it is to refine." Scholars have long debated whether it referred to education, calligraphy, or the now lost art of folded wisdom. The stone remains on display but upside down. No one has dared to turn it. You stay with her until the candles burn low. You do not speak again. You do not fold again. Because some nights are made for holding what already lives. And tonight something has been born. Not a movement. There is a child in the palace who folds birds when no one is looking. You see him for the first time near the plum courtyard, crouched low beside a cracked stone basin that hasn't held water in years. His robes are too big. His face is smudged with ash, likely from some kitchen scolding or firewood mishap. In his hand a crane. Poorly folded, lopsided, one wing shorter than the other. You recognize the shape immediately, and you recognize the feeling behind it, not precision, not elegance, just the desperate, wordless need to make something that stays. He doesn't see you at first. You stand beneath the shadows of a drooping pine, watching, not hiding, just waiting. When he finally glances up, his eyes widen. He half rises, unsure whether to flee or bow or pretend he wasn't folding anything at all. You do none of the things adults are supposed to do. You don't scold. You don't ask where he got the paper. You don't tell him folding is a waste of time. Instead, you step closer, crouch down beside him, and gently pick up the crane. "Oh, it's better than my first," you say. Oh, he blinks suspicious, curious. Now you smile just a little. Did someone teach you? Oh, he shakes his head. No, just saw someone do it, thought maybe I could too. Oh, you look him in the eye, you can't. Then from your sleeve you take a scrap of clean paper, a square folded, then flattened. Now you begin to fold, slowly, purposefully, letting him watch each motion. He mirrors you, hands small, clumsy, eager. Together you fold another crane, this one with 2 even wings. So when you finish, he grins. It's a quiet grin, but it's real. Well, what's your name, you ask. Oh, means, do you want to learn more? Oh, he nods. You hand him the finished crane. Then keep this, but only if you promise to teach someone else one day. He nods again, eyes wide, fingers curled tightly around the bird. As you walk away, you realize you are shaking, not from fear, but from awe. You didn't plan to teach anyone, not yet, not like this. But the fold is alive now, not in symbols, in people. Now today's historical fact. In the late era, court children, especially sons of concubines or lower-ranked officials, were often educated in secret by eunuchs. While forbidden from formal instruction, these children would sometimes learn through chores, overheard poetry, or symbolic play. Folding was one of the few creative acts allowed without suspicion, making it a subtle vehicle for transmitting values, wisdom, and coded truths. An obscure cultural note: in some royal kitchens, folded creatures made of cabbage leaves or parchment were used to silently praise a worker's efforts. A cook who saved a meal from ruin might return to their bunk to find a folded turtle under their blanket. These folds were never signed, but they were treasured. Some were kept for life. So that night, you don't fold anything. You don't need to. You already have. When you see Min again, he's folding a fish. This time it's better, not perfect, but better. He's crouched near the same basin, tongue between his teeth, brows furrowed in that intense, childish way that makes it clear he's not thinking about anything else in the world, except getting the tail to curl just right. You sit beside him again, uninvited. He doesn't flinch, he just hands you the paper. You try. You do. Side by side, you fold 2 fish. You don't talk much, just a few corrections, a few nods. When they're finished, you hold both in your palm. Which one swims farther, you ask. He points at his. Wise. He shrugs because it wants to. You look at him a long time. This boy. This accident of lineage and court circumstance, folding metaphors like an old soul. You nod, that's the right answer. From your sleeve, you retrieve a thin ribbon of faded gold thread. It's old. It once lined the hem of a discarded ceremonial robe. You've kept it for years, never knew why. Until now. You tie it around the fish's middle, then you hand it back to him. What's it mean, he asks. It means remember who folded with you. He holds the fish carefully, reverently, like it might teach him something if he listens long enough. You leave without another word. You don't need a shrine to pass on your history, just a willing hand. That night you meet her again. This time it's in the disused perfumery, a place thick with dried flowers, empty jars, and the ghost of past extravagance. No one comes here anymore. Too many petals, not enough orders. She's seated on a low stool beside a crate of empty glass bottles. When she sees you, she lifts a piece of violet paper. I heard you folded with a boy. You blink a howl. She gestures to the air, the folds talk. You sit beside her. Is it too soon, you ask. She thinks for a moment. Then, it's never too soon to plant a seed. She hands you the violet paper. It's time you knew the next pattern. You unfold it. It's inside diagrams, not instructions, not exactly, just implications, a spiral fold. A bloom that opens only when held a certain way. A crease meant to resemble breath. You study the lines. What is this? Although, she says. So she nods. Each folder gets one, but it has to be earned and shared. You stare at the pattern. It looks complicated. Dense, impossible. You'll figure it out, she says softly, because it already knows you. You stay together a long while, folding in silence. When you leave, the pattern stays in your sleeve. A heavy sacred. Not a destination. Today's historical fact. In certain artisan guilds of the 1700s, craftsmen would pass down signature patterns to apprentices. A unique cut, stitch, or fold not recorded in any book. These were not just marks of skill, they were inheritance. Some apprentices spent decades before being trusted with the final stroke. The fold in this context was lineage. A obscure cultural detail, one long-lost court manual refers to a concept called literally living door. It described rituals not based on objects but on relationships. The idea was that two people, when truly aligned in silence and purpose, became a threshold for change, together embodying the unseen passageway between isolation and meaning. Most scholars dismissed it as poetic exaggeration. But among court eunuchs, the phrase still lingers in story. We are the door, not the knock. Back in your room, you take out the violet patterns. You begin to fold. It takes hours. You lose track of time. You make mistakes, then start over. You bladed once. The paper cuts you just below the knuckle. You smile at the sting. When it's finished, it doesn't resemble anything you know. Not a bird, not a flower. It's all hinges, all inward curves. A name folded into silence. So your names are not the one given, so the one earned it. Though this sits on your mat like a breath made solid. It is unlike anything you've folded before, not beautiful exactly, but haunting. A structure that folds in on itself and somehow still stays open. The longer you look at it, the more you feel it watching you back, not with judgment but with memory. You place it beside the door fold. Together, they look like they're waiting for something. You don't sleep, you don't even try. Instead, you read. You unfold old scrolls you had once dismissed as tax records and ceremonial listings and look again. This time, not with a court scribe's eyes, but with a folder. And you begin to see it, the patterns hiding beneath the surface. A certain name appears over and over, listed as assistant to the keeper of celestial logs, a role that on paper should have been temporary menial. Yet the name endures. Always second to someone else. Never promoted. Never dismissed. Always there in the margins. You run your finger over the name and feel something shift. Later that night in the garden, you bring it up to hers. Did you ever hear of? She's quiet a long time. Then nods slowly. That name hasn't been spoken in years. Who was he? She folds her arms. He was witness. You inhaled. Not surprised, just stilled. She continues, folded truth, remembered it, passed it on. You sit beside her slowly. Why was he forgotten? She smiles bittersweet, because forgetting is the palace's favorite tool. You both look at the paper creatures laid out across the mossy stone. He was she adds softly. He wrote down folds no one else remembered, even's final sequence. He carried it in his mind. He was never allowed to fold it himself. Why not? She shrugs. Some folds are too powerful to be repeated. They can only be passed, quietly, once. Pause. And yet, she says, looking directly at you now, I think you've already started to recreate it. The violet in your room. The hinge. The window it made when paired with hers. You shiver. Not from the cold, or from recognition. You don't need confirmation. The folds are starting to echo through you. Today's historical fact. In many traditional Korean secret societies, often formed by artisans, temple keepers, or displaced scholars, there existed the role of shadow keeper. This person was not the leader nor the writer. They were the memory, tasked with holding patterns, stories, or rituals entirely in the mind, never on paper. Their only duty, to survive and to whisper the truth when the world forgot. A obscure detail, one preserved rice paper mask discovered in the ruins of a collapsed library near bears no facial features, only a single line down the center like a fold. On the inside, a faded note reads, If I cannot be remembered, let me be repeated. You fold that night with a sense of reverence so quiet, it borders on grief. You fold not for yourself, not even for her, but for a name you will not let disappear again. The day the palace finds a fold it doesn't recognize, everything changes. It begins with a misplaced broom, then a complaint, then a steward frowning beside a sunlit windowsill where someone has placed a folded fox made of gold parchment, shaped carefully, beautifully, impossibly. Though the steward asks around, no one claims it, because no one folded it. Except you. You did it without thinking, during a midday pause, with a scrap of ceremonial lining that had come loose from the minister's robe. You didn't mean to leave it behind, but it wanted to stay. The steward reports it to his superior. The superior shrugs, probably a bored maid. But the steward is not satisfied. He brings it to the high eunuch. And the high eunuch does not shrug. He says nothing, just stares. And then says, burn it. You find out hours later, through a whisper from an apprentice who sweeps the upper corridors. They said it was cursed, he says. You smile faintly, it was. He hesitates, but maybe it was blessed in the wrong place. You say nothing. That night she meets you earlier than usual. I heard, she says. You nod. I didn't mean to. She stops you. You did mean to. You just didn't mean to get noticed. That's different. She brings a new piece of paper tonight, thicker than usual, dyed the color of winter sky. On its surface, a single dotted line runs diagonally across the square. No folds, you observe. She nods, this is a path. You frown, what kind of fold starts with a path? She smiles, every kind. You begin folding together. Following the lines. You don't know what you're building. But the creases feel ancestral. As if your hands have done this before, in another lifetime, in another name. She watches you carefully, corrects nothing, just folds beside you. When you finish, it's a spiral, not open, not closed, like time if it breathed. She traces the outer edge. This is the shell. The shell of what? She leans in, the story that hasn't happened yet. You sit back. You understand. The folds are no longer about hidings. They're about becomings. And when the palace burns your fox, it's not an ending. It's an ignition. The next morning, another fold appears, this time on the desk of the high eunuch himself. A folded rabbit, crafted from the corner of a prayer scroll. It has no signature. Only a single word brushed in ash-colored ink on the underside. Kindnesses. Now there is no investigation. Only silence. And that silence spreads. Because the palace does not know what kindness means when folded into rebellion. Later, behind the old bell tower, you find Min folding again. This time he's teaching someone. Another child, a girl slightly older, laughing at her own mistakes. You watch them quietly. Then walk away. It has begun. Not loudly, not with fires, but with a paper. Now, today's historical fact: the royal court's surveillance logs occasionally mentioned unusual objects often dismissed as toys, charms, or symbols of lower-class superstition. Most were never investigated, but a few were marked as items of intention. These included folded shapes placed in ritual spaces, scroll margins, or ceremonial robes. The court never confirmed their meaning, but they were almost always destroyed on discovery. An obscure cultural note: a rural legend from province speaks of a spirit who arrives not with wind or storm but with a folded creature, always different, left on the doorstep. The spirit never enters, it simply leaves the fold. Those who keep it are blessed with insight. Those who burn it forget something important and never know what it was. Now you return to your chamber. Now you sit before your folds, and for the first time you whisper aloud, "I am not alone." The folds already knew. Now you do too. It starts with a rumor. One of the senior scribes, a man who has worked longer than anyone can remember, with ink-stained fingers and a voice like creaking wood, says he saw a bird fly out of the archive. A paper bird. No, not one drifting on the breeze. Not a torn scrap. But a folded creature, precise, alive in the way only intention can make something. He says it flapped twice before gliding down the hallway and vanishing near the Queen Dowager's chamber. Now, no one believes him, of course, but they whisper about it anyway. You hear the story passed to you from a laundry assistant who heard it from a guard who swore he didn't care, but asked 3 more questions than necessary. You don't say anything. Because you do believe it. Because the archive has begun to stir. And the folds have begun to move. That evening, you return to the chamber behind the archive, the locked room of forgotten letters. You bring no candle, you let the dark be your guide. The boxes are as you left them. But just one has shifted. Its lid sits slightly askew, and the string that once bound it lies in a neat coil beside it, like a shed skin. Inside, a folded bird. You didn't fold it. She didn't fold it. But it carries the language, the pressure of hands trained in the old ways. A balance only achieved by someone who understands that folding isn't shaping paper, it's shaping memory. Beneath the bird, a scrap of old cloth wrapped around a piece of slate. On the slate, etched in precise, narrow strokes. This final fold was never burned. It waits beneath the second bell. While you stare at the message until your heart slows again. Now this isn't a ghost story. Oh, it's a location. A survival. While you live immediately. No, not in haste. Oh, in reverence. Oh, you do not run. You walk as someone who has finally found the trail of their ancestors' breath. Though the second bell tower has been disused for over a decade. Its steps are rotting, the bronze is cracked. The officials decided it was unnecessary, an echo of a past that was too slow, too ceremonial. Now it houses only dust, bird nests, and the occasional servant assigned to sweep in solitude as punishment. While you arrive just after midnight. Now you carry no tools, only silences, and a folded hinge. The door is already open. And inside it smells of iron and pine sap. Old things, heavy things. You step carefully over the floorboards, scanning for anything that looks out of place. Well, then you see it. Behind the stairs, tucked into a niche in the wall where two beams meet. A folded shape. Wrapped in waxed linen, tied with a string of hair. You kneel. Your hands are trembling. Not from fear, from awe. You unwrap it. And inside a single fold. A deep green. A heavy paper, layers pressed so tightly together it feels almost carved. It's unlike any fold you've seen. You know immediately this is. You don't unfold it. No, not yet. Because some folds are not to be read. Some folds are meant to be witnessed. You hold it against your chest. You bow your head. And you whisper the name aloud. Back in your chamber, you place the fold on your mat, surrounded by light. You don't hide it. No, not tonight. You write nothing. You fold nothing. You sit before it until the sun begins to rise, and the shadows stretch long across your floor. And then you sleep, next to the fold, like a child sleeping beside a campfire. Because you are no longer carrying the tradition alone. You are holding its flame. And it has always been burning. Today's historical fact: the bell towers of the palaces were not just for marking time, they marked shifts in power, rituals of mourning, and in rare instances, encoded messages for inner court movements. It's documented that on at least 3 occasions, eunuchs used the second bell's timing pattern to signal nonverbal messages to the outer walls. Once a bell rang in a forgotten rhythm, long, short, short, long. No one knew what it meant, but 3 days later, 2 ministers retired. No reason given. An obscure cultural note: in certain Korean village, birds who deliver messages are considered manifestations of unfulfilled vows. They do not rest until their memory is preserved. In one tale, a bird lands in the hands of a mute child and teaches her how to fold its shape from paper. When she does, the bird disappears. The child begins to speak, Her first word, remember. You fold nothings that day. Because today the fold has spoken. And you are listening. The next day the palace changes. Not in obvious ways, not in drums or decrees, but in temperature, in direction. The air grows cautious. Footsteps become more measured. Certain staff are reassigned to busier wings. Others vanish from their usual spots entirely. You are not approached, but you are watched. A kitchen boy looks at you too long. A steward greets you with your full name. The scribe master asks if you're sleeping well. Nothing is said outright. But something has been noticed. And the palace is remembering how to be afraid. You bring the fold to her that night. It was in the gardens. You don't speak at first. You simply lay it on the stone between you. Her eyes widen. She doesn't reach for it. Instead, she bows. And for a moment, neither of you are peoples. You are pages. You are ancestors. You are the silence between thunder and its echo. This is the root, she whispers. It wasn't lost. You nod. Then hesitantly you ask, do we open it? She shakes her head. No, she says softly, we show it. You don't ask to whom. You already know. The men. The girl he folded with. The older eunuch with his cracked smile and ironed sleeves. The seamstress who stitches foxes into cuffs and calls them coincidence. The mute who leaves folded flowers in the rain. You show them all. Not all at once. Not in a parade. But like a passing of breaths. Like a whisper to the right ears. Some cry. Some laugh. Some kiss the fold. No one tries to open it. Everyone understands. Then a week later, the message arrives. Not a spoken warning. A handkerchief. Folded perfectly. Laid on your sleeping mat. Embroidered with a single symbol. The bell. Not the second bell. The first. The one still in use. Still visible. Still controlled. She reads the symbol and sighs. They're coming. You nod. What do we do? She looks at the fold. Then at you. We prepare the hinge. You understand. It's time to open. But not that fold. Your fold. The one that lays somewhere else. The door made not of paper but of names. And hands. And remembrances. Today's historical fact. Near the end of the 19th century, during a brief reform period, one anonymous minister proposed that the court's true heritage lies not in its titles but in its silences. The proposal was dismissed, but a copy of it survived, found decades later, folded tightly into the lining of a ceremonial glove. A obscure detail. In some oral versions of the legend, the final fold is never opened. Instead, it is passed from hand to hand, and those who carry it gain the ability to fold their own truths without instruction. It's said that each generation's strongest folder is chosen not by birth or blood, but by their ability to fold a hinge without ever seeing one. Though that night you don't just fold a hinge. Though you fold many. Though you teach men. He teaches the girl. She teaches the mute. The folds begin to travel. And each one carries the same unspoken promise. So we are not leaving, we are arrivings. The first confrontation doesn't happen in the throne room. It happens in the laundry courtyard. As a senior official, a man with a sharp voice and a habit of speaking while walking away, discovers a folded fox tucked into the sleeve of his ceremonial robe. He brings it to the high eunuch. He demands an explanation. It's a message, he says. It has to be. The high eunuch examines the fox, quiet, calculating. There are no words written on the papers. But the shape, deliberate, balanced, confident, speaks loudly. Too loudly. This isn't a child's joke, the high eunuch says at last. And he is correct. It's men's fold. You showed him the fox last week. He folded it beside the old carpenter's apprentice, two boys laughing in the sun, folding defiance with jam on their fingers. They meant no harm. But now the palace smells a pattern. The next day, folding is banned. All scraps are confiscated, paper rations halved, messages inspected, notes burned before they can be delivered. You are not accused, but you are watched. Twice someone checks your quarters without knocking. You find your name scratched on the bottom of a storage scroll, likely a secret report. She stops speaking in open air. You switch to folded exchanges. Your conversations now occur without sound in two mirrored spirals of parchment. The others feel it too. Min stops folding altogether. He stares at the garden like it's changed sides. The girl folds in her sleep now. Her hands twitch beneath the blanket. Once she wakes with a paper star between her palms and no memory of how it got there. The old eunuch walks slower, purposefully. He whispers as he walks, "They burned the bird." You already know which ones. Not yours, not Min's. They found the fold beneath the second bell. Though they didn't understand it. Also, they feared it. And fear in this place always leads to fire. You meet her that night not in the gardens. Not in the perfumery. Not even in the archives, but in the space between the walls. There's a corridor no one uses anymore. A servant's passage sealed on both ends, except it never truly sealed. Nothing in the palace ever does. You light no lamp. You carry no scroll. Only paper. And breath. She meets you in silence. In her hands ash. This is all that's left. You do not cry. Not because you aren't grieving, but because some losses are sacred, and sacred things are not wept over, they are remembered. She pours the ash into your hands. You cup it, and in that moment you decide. No more hiding. The folds will not retreat again. They will unfold. As everywhere. Today's historical fact: a late-era fire in the Eastern Palace wing destroyed nearly all ceremonial robes stored in the royal vaults. The official report cited lightning, but an unverified servant's log claimed the fire began after a paper bird fell from the rafters. The fire burned fast, hot, but strangely patterned. When extinguished, it left a perfect ring of untouched floorboards shaped like a flower. The fire was never mentioned again. An obscure cultural note: in folk belief, burning a folded shape is said to release its spirit into the air. Most people did it as a farewell, but a lesser-known tradition insists that burning a fold prematurely doesn't end it. It unlocks it, releasing its truth into the world unbound. Some monks feared this, calling it wild memory. Others called it justice. That night, you scatter ashes at the base of the magnolia tree. Then you fold a new fox. You do not hide it. You place it on the Queen Dowager's breakfast tray. And walk away. The palace reacts with speed, then confusion. By midday, a fold appears on every level of the court. Some are precise, clearly trained hands. Others are messy, trembling, folded in panic or hope. But they appear on ledgers in pockets slipped between window shutters. Foxes, rabbits, hinges, cranes, stars. No messages. Just shapes. Just memory. You fold none of them yourself. But you know every crease by heart. Because they're yours, all of them, not as author, as teacher, as ripple. The High Eunuch holds a meeting behind closed doors. Only a few are summoned. You are not among them. But she is. She's taken in the morning. You watch from behind the silk blinds as they guide her across the courtyard, her head bowed, hands visible, calm. She does not resist. Because she knows what you're already folding. By the time night falls, you've folded 50 hinges. Each one named. Each one destined. You begin distributing them at dusk. You slip them into shoes. Into prayer books. Between cracked floor tiles and bundled herbs. You leave one on the grand historian's desk. You fold another in the high eunuch's tea napkins. You do not leave notes. Only a single mark, barely visible at the hinge's heart. You've already remembered. They keep her in the moon chambers. It's meant for reflection, for repentance. A quiet space, round and windowless. But it was never meant to hold her. You slip a message through the crack beneath the door. Not in words. Is in a fold you've never taught anyone's. The circle fold. Closed on the outside, infinite within. She'll understand. She always does. And when she returns it, slipped into your sash at the well the next morning, you don't even need to open it. You feel it. She's ready. By the following day, the palace is restless. No new folds appear. But the absence is loud. Because absence after memory is rebellion. And those who cannot burn, meaning try to bury it. You are summoned. Not formally. So whisper, a hand on your shoulder. A nod from someone who used to pretend not to know your name. They led you to the hall of petitions. Empathy. Echoing. The high eunuch sits in the center. A scroll before him. He motions for you to kneel. You do. He does not speak immediately. Instead, he unrolls the scroll. It's blank. Then he hands you a sheet of paper. You know what to do, he says. Not a question. A command. A test. You look at the paper. You look at the scroll. Then you place the paper gently on the floor. And you fold. A hinge. Then another. Then a spiral. You do not rush. You do not cower. You fold slowly, softly. Then you press it flat and slide it toward him. He does not touch it. He stares at it. Then stares at you. Finally, he speaks. There was a time I folded too. Pause. But I chose the palace. You nod. I am the palace, you reply. And you mean it. Because the folds are not outside anymore. They are here. As in the air, in the memory, in the breath between creaks in the floor. He dismisses you. Not with anger, or with recognition. You leave the chamber. You pass the courtyard. You stop at the magnolia. You find a folded mirror resting in its roots. You hold it up and see your own eyes. Not hidden, not bowed, but open. Today's historical fact, one record never officially confirmed, describes a ceremonial day in which no bells were rung, no decrees were spoken, and no one of rank issued a command. The eunuchs led the rituals, the maids lit the lamps, and every person who touched paper that day folded it once and placed it on the ground. The next morning, the king rose and said only, "Let the walls remember." As obscure cultural note, in modern Korean memory studies, a phrase often appears in analysis of trauma narratives: to fold is to remember. It refers not only to grief but to survival. The act of folding becomes a gesture of preservation even when words cannot bear the weight. Paper endures, not because it is strong, but because it is chosen. So that night you fold nothing. While you sleep, because the palace now is full of folds. Because remembrance does not rest in your hands alone. Because the hinge is open, and what walks through it is everyone. The palace is quieter now, but not in the way it was before. Not in the old, obedient hush of scheduled prayers and curated silence. Now this is a new quiet, a listening quiet. A quiet full of eyes and folded shapes and breath held just behind the teeth. The servants step lighter. Maids pass folded napkins without comment. A young apprentice leaves a folded rabbit in the grain bins. And the girl Min's companion now wears her crane tucked behind her ear like a flower's. No one stops her. No one dares. Because the folds are no longer hidden. Though they are respected. Not publicly, but deeply. Oh, it's not a revolution in the usual sense. Now there are no torches, no martyrs, no declarations, just a paper. But every crease is a sentence, and every silent fold says the same thing. So we remember. You fold less now, not from fear, or from necessity. You are no longer the only voice. You've become the echo. Others fold, others teach, others pass. The network no longer needs names. It breathes like a second skin beneath the palace, alive, unseen, inevitable. Oh, even the high eunuch stops requesting your presence. He knows, and knowing is enough. He cannot undo the folds, because they do not live in scrolls. They live in memory. Though still there are threats. They're small ones, subtle. As a paper bird burned in front of Min's. A steward reassigned after finding a fox in his ledger. As a whisper that someone in the Queen Dowager's circle folded a lotus and then vanished. You respond not with anger. You respond with instruction. Each threat is met with a fold. Each disappearance becomes a legacy. You teach men a new shape. You call it the lanterns. It holds light, but only if the person who unfolds it chooses to light it. He passes it on. It reaches the kitchens by morning. By nightfall, it's in the hands of a tutor who once scolded you for folding too slowly. She folds it now with reverence. Her hands shake. As in the hidden passage between the walls, you meet her again. She looks older or maybe more present. She has begun walking slower, folding faster. While you sense her urgency. I had a dream, she says. You wait. I folded a mirror, but when I opened it, I wasn't there. You nod. That means the fold worked. She stares at you, then laughs quiet sad. I thought it meant I was gone. No, you whisper. It means you've become more than what you see. You place a paper hinge in her palms. She doesn't unfold it. She just holds it to her chest. That night you return to your chambers. And for the first time in many moons, you write something down. Not a fold. Letters. Not addressed to anyone. Not signed. Just a confession. I was never meant to lead. I was meant to hold. To carry. To witness. But paper does not remain blank. It wants to be folded. And we are not here to resist the paper. We are here to give it shape. You fold the letter. You place it beneath your mat. You sleep beside it. Because the time is coming soon. When you must unfold it again. And give it to someone new. Today's historical fact. In late palatial etiquette, certain silent positions were held by those whose only role was to listen: scribes, runners, attendants. These individuals were often considered beneath notice, but they carried more information than ministers. Some even trained themselves to memorize entire scrolls in case of fire or theft. A few lived their entire lives without speaking in front of power, yet preserved it better than any archive. As obscure cultural note, among rural temples, there exists a meditation technique known as paper breathing, a slow, repetitive folding motion performed without intent, designed to reflect the rhythm of natural thought. Monks believed the body's memory would shape the fold into something meaningful, if allowed to move without ego. The technique was said to bring forgotten names to the surface. You wake the next morning with a word on your lips. Return. And you understand. Though the time for folding alone has passed. Now it's time to fold back into the world. There's a new fold in your room. You didn't make it. You find it just after midday, sitting on your low table beside the unused brush and empty teacup. It's a spiral. Carefully creased, clean edges. But unlike the one you folded weeks ago, this one is opened. Inside, no writing. Just a single pressed petal. The magnolias. You lift it gently, hold it beneath your nose. The scent is faint, but real. And you realize what it is. An invitation. You find her in the magnolia garden waiting. No words are spoken. As she unfolds a cloth bundle from her sleeve. And inside dozens of old folds, preserved, pressed, ancient. You recognize one immediately. You had only ever seen it described in metaphor, in her stories, in the archive logs. But here it is real, balanced, beautiful. You reach for it. She stops you. Her hand closes over yours. Not yet. You nod. Because you understand. Some folds are not for opening. They are for showing. She leads you behind the garden, past the carved wall where the names of forgotten gardeners are buried beneath ivy. There is a small doorway, one even you have never seen. And inside, a chamber no larger than a tea house. No lanterns, just a paper. Stacks of folded shapes, layered, categorized, protected. It's called the Quiet Library, she says. Who built it? She smiles. No one, it folded itself. Over time, every time someone folded in truth and didn't burn it, it ended up here. You kneel. You touch the folds. You feel the warmth. You feel the presence. You feel arrival. We're going to open it, she says. Not the folds, the places. You look up to whose? To everyone's. That night you fold only once. The mirrors. You place it in the hands of a sleeping steward who once ignored you for a year. He wakes with it, he doesn't speak, but that afternoon he leaves a fox in the stairwell. The folds are speaking faster now. Their language is fluent. And the palace no longer bothers pretending not to hear. Some begin folding too. Openly. The scribe master folds during lunch. The queen dowager receives a lantern and orders that it not be removed. The min folds a hinge and gives it to a guard. The guard cries. And just like that, the silence begins to tear softly. Then one morning, a royal decree is issued. No folded object shall be discarded. Each will be preserved for inspection. A record will be kept. You smile when you hear it. Not because it's protection, but because it's recognition. The palace no longer seeks to extinguish the folds. It has begun to archive them. And the moment something is archived, it becomes history. And the moment something becomes history, it cannot be erased. Today's historical fact. In the twilight years of the dynasty, a single shelf was added to the royal archive, unmarked and undocumented. It held no decrees, no laws, no names. But it was said that the royal librarian would bow to it each morning before unlocking the scroll vaults. The contents were never described, but the shelf became known quietly as the breath. An obscure cultural note. In some oral traditions, the final fold of a generation is never made by the elder, but by the one they choose. This fold is not taught, it is witnessed. The shape is always different, but the intention is the same, to close the past just wide enough that the future can enter. Though that night you sit before your mat. Though you do not light a candles. Though you do not boil tea. Though you wait. And just before dawn there's a knock. Not a loud one. Just a folded one. Two taps, a pause, then one more. You rise. Open the door. And she's there. With an unopened scroll. A blank sheet of paper. And a smile that says, it's time to fold the ending. She lays the blank sheet between you. You both kneel facing one another, cross-legged on the polished wood floor of your chamber. The room is bare. You've removed everything: folds, scrolls, bowls, even your sleeping mat. What remains is only space. Though the air holds its breath, even the palace seems to hesitate. You place your hands on the sheet. She places hers on the opposite corners. For a moment, nothing moves. Then slowly you begin. One creases. Not toward you, not toward hers. Inward. Then again, diagonal, gentle pressures. You don't speak. You breathe together. A third fold curves across the edge. She mirrors your motion, not identically, but in rhythm. Her fingers follow your intention, not your direction. The paper begins to shift shape. Not into a bird, not a hinge, not a fox or mirrors. This one is new. This is not a record, she whispers. It's a ritual. You nod. Because it's true. It's every generation, every memory, every silence held too long must one day be folded into form. Not to explain it, but to honor it. You fold the fourth edge. It curves under the third. The fifth slides across like a ribbon, forming a loop. And then, the paper lifts. Not literally, but energetically, symbolically. It opens. What you are building is not symmetrical. It's not balanced. It's honest. A shape with uneven sides, invisible seams, and a center so quiet it hums. The final crease is made with both your hands, hers pressed over yours. Together you press down the fold. And you exhale. Not in relief. Is in arrival. All because it is finished. The final fold. Not the last in the world. Just the last one you needed to make. You lift it, it's small, dense, but soft. It looks like a seed. And it feels like closure. So she nods, her eyes are wet but not broken. And in the hush between you, she says, now we teach them how to open it. So the next morning, the Queen Dowager calls for you both. No, not in secret, not in fear. She requests your presence publicly. No one questions it. You walk together through the inner courtyard, final fold wrapped in silk and cedar shavings. The petals are falling again. The magnolia tree is blooming late. When you arrive, the Queen Dowager is seated beside the great inkstone, sipping tea slowly. She does not look up when you enter. Only when you kneel. You brought it, she asks. You unfold the silk. You place the final fold before her. She leans forward. She does not touch it. But her breath catches. Softly. I have seen this before, she says. Pause. I was 6. She tells you a story of a nursemaid who once folded in secret. Of a hidden hinge under her pillow. Of a mirror she was never allowed to keep. And one morning of a folded shape just like this one, placed on her tray. She never knew where it came from. Until now. She places her hand beside it. And says with more softness than you've ever heard in this palace. Let the folds remain. Then she stands, leaves the chamber, and tells no one what she saw. By sundown, the message has spread. The folds are no longer forbidden. They are part of the palace now. And the palace will fold with them. Today's historical fact. In the final years of after-court reforms and internal fractures, a short-lived but powerful movement emerged called the Whisper Court, a collection of scholars, scribes, and servants who sought to preserve non-verbal histories. They created living text stories, rituals, objects that could be passed hand to hand without official approval. Only a handful survive, most were erased, but their influence remains. As obscure cultural note, the term for legacy in Korean also means something that flows downward. In folding culture, a special fold called the shape mimics the motion of a waterfall, one that begins narrow, widens at the center, and narrows again before dropping open. It was used to pass memory to the next folder, ensuring the story would reshape but never vanish. That night you sleep beside the final fold. And dream of it opening in someone else's hands. You wake to find a folded rabbit on your windowsill. It's crude, slightly smudged. The corner torns. But it makes your heart ache. All because it's Min's. His first fold in weeks. You find him that morning near the stone basin, his old hiding place. He's folding cranes now, not perfect, but steady. You sit beside him. You're folding again, you say. He shrugs, they said it's allowed now. But that's not why you're doing it. He pauses. Then, no, I'm doing it because I remembered something. You wait. He doesn't look at you when he says it. When you taught me the fox, I thought it was just paper. But it stayed even after I forgot the shape. It stayed. You nod. Because you understand. You always have. The quiet library is no longer a secret. People come now 3 at a time, never more, always in quiet. They don't ask questions. They don't expect answers. They bring folds. They leave them on the shelves. They take nothing away. Except memory. The shelf holdings fold has doubled. Someone folded a fox beside it. Another a lantern, someone else a paper spoon. You don't know what that one means. But it feels important. You leave it undisturbed. She smiles more now. She folds less, but each fold she makes is ceremonial. She calls them closings. You ask her what that means. She says it's when you fold something that already happened, but no one admitted it. She gives her closings to no one. Just leaves them in places that were once full of grief. The washing stone where a girl collapsed last year. The empty stairwell where someone once fell and was never replaced. The third bell tower where no one goes anymore. You walk with her sometimes. Other times you walk alone. You begin teaching folding again, not to resist but to root. You show men how to fold a keeper, a shape that holds a message only if the hands that open it do so gently. He teaches it to 3 others. By week's end, you see it tucked into the Queen Dowager's incense dish. She doesn't remove it. She lets it burn slowly with the smoke. By spring, the folds are part of the palace rhythm. They arrive with morning tea. They line the hallways. They're pressed into the hems of robes. Even the high eunuch folds now, only in solitude. But one night you pass his chamber, and then through the open lattice you see a fox sitting on his table. He stares at it like a question. You do not disturb him. Because every question deserves to wait. Today's historical fact: a painting discovered behind a sealed panel in the outer wall shows a row of servants, each holding a folded shape in one hand, a blank scroll in the other. The brushwork is primitive, the proportions strange, but across the bottom, written in faded ink, "We are the pages you will never erase." This obscure cultural note. In some modern Korean calligraphy circles, artists leave a folded scrap beneath their final ink stone, unfinished, unnamed. This fold is not for show, it's for grounding, a reminder that art doesn't end when it's framed. It begins again in every eye that sees it. That evening, you sit in the gardens. She brings you tea. The man brings you a fox. The girl brings a star. You place them beside you. Fold your hands. Look up and say softly, "It's time." She nods. Then lifts the final fold. Not to open it, but to place it in the open. On the public altar where only kings' names once sat. Oh, and there it rests, not broken, not claimed, just a present. The fold remains, the palace endures, and everything you once hid now breathes. They begin calling it the quiet day. No official decree names it, no drums announce it, but everyone knows. One morning, just after the first bird song, someone places a folded rabbit on the palace steps. White paper, clean lines, no message. Then a fox appears in the hall outside the quarters. Then a mirror, a little lanterns, a little cranes. By noon, the palace is full. The folds tucked into aprons, under cups, on under boots. The note too are alike, but each one carries the same shape of intent. So today we do not add noise. While we listen, the meals are served in silence. Instructions passed in gesture. The scribes write but do not speak. As even the bells are not rung. And instead, folded shapes are placed where chimes would hang. So when the wind moves, it whispers through paper. Not to replace sound, time to hold it. The Queen Dowager emerges only once. She walks alone, without attendants, into the central courtyard where the final fold now rests on the altar. Oh, she does not touch it. Oh, she kneels. Oh, she bows once. Oh, and then she returns inside. It is the only ceremony knighted. You and she sit together by the magnolia, folding nothing. You simply watch the leaves flicker and fall. You know, she says, her voice barely more than breath. When I first started folding, I didn't know what I was doing. You nod, none of us did. I thought it was just something soft I could control. You smile, it still is. She laughs, quiet, honest. Do you ever miss the silence? She asks. You think for a long moment. Then no, because now it has texture. You walk through the halls that evening and notice how many shapes are half folded. Not broken, not discarded. Just paused. Unfinished folds. Mid-motion. You touch one and feel warmth. People are learning that memory doesn't have to be complete to be real. Though that unfolding is not failure. It's permission. And in that realization, you understand the next step is not creating more folds. As it's preparing to leave one behind. So that night Min finds you. He sits beside you, hands full of blank squares. He doesn't speak for a long while. Then finally he says what comes after. You look at him, at his paper, and at his fingers stronger now, wiser. You nod toward the final fold. You'll teach them how to open it. His eyes widen. I thought we weren't supposed to. You tilt your head, not yet, but someone will have to. He looks down, why me? You smile. Because you remembered before you understood. Today's historical fact. A rare court scroll preserved in a merchant's family for generations describes a ceremony known as the quiet coronation. It was never used, never planned, but designed as a fail-safe for when words failed the throne or lineage was broken. The entire process involved no oaths, no horns, only a folded shape passed from one hand to the next. If the receiver accepted, they bowed. If not, they returned the fold unopened. The court would accept either outcome without punishment. An obscure cultural note. In one rural temple archive, there is a story of a folding master who, at the end of her life, folded her entire story into a single shape. She told no one what it meant. She simply left it under a stone. Years later, her apprentice found it, unfolded it, and realized it was a map, but not of roads, of decisions. You lie awake that night, hand resting on a half-folded page. You are not dreaming. You are becoming. You wake before sunrise. The garden is still. Only the wind stirs, tracing soft curls through the soil, whispering past the roots of the magnolia, carrying the breath of hundreds of folded creatures placed quietly beneath it. She's already there. So is Min. So are the others. The old eunuch, the girl, the mute boy with the paper stars. Each of them holding something unfinished. The moment has come. Not to end the story, but to pass it forward. You hold out a square of plain paper. You offer it to Mins. He accepts it. Then gently you offer him your final fold. Not the ceremonial one. Not the one on the altar. Yours. The one you have carried without realizing. He opens it. It's a shape he's never seen. It resembles a spiral, but when he lifts it, it becomes a lantern. When he tilts it, it becomes a door. When he turns it sideways, it becomes a bird. He looks at you astonished. Then how? You smile. You'll find your own. She kneels beside you. Places her last fold, a soft, curled leaf, at the roots of the magnolia. She whispers, for the ones I never told. You bow beside her. You do the same. For the ones who never told me. Min kneels, folding as he does. For the ones I'll never meet. You stand together. No applause. No banners. No fireworks. Just folded paper. And presents. The Queen Dowager appears at the edge of the gardens. She walks slowly, hands empty. She reaches the altar where the final fold still rests. She picks it up. And finally, Opens it. Not fully, or just enough. A single crease lifted. The center revealed. Inside blank. But the blankness is full. You can see her eyes shift. You watch her face soften. Then she places it back, gently, reverently. She bows, then turns away. Nothing changes and everything does. By midday, a new shelf is added to the official record room. It holds nothing but folds. No ink, no seals. Just a paper, and a carved wooden plaque. The memory, folded gently, survives. You leave the palace 1 week later. You take nothing with you. No scrolls, no robes. Only a stack of blank paper. And a story in your chest. You walk slowly. Through the gates that once defined you. Past the guards who now nod instead of ignore. Into a world that never knew you. But now feels shaped by your hands. Today's historical fact, one of the few remaining oral traditions among the descendants of court record keepers includes a simple chant, "Fold the silence, open the sky." It is recited at the beginning of each season not to remember the past, but to welcome its transformation. Some believe it originated from an unnamed eunuch. Others say it came from the Queen Dowager herself. Most agree it came from someone who chose not to disappear. An obscure cultural note. In the National Folk Museum of Korea, there is a sealed case labeled "Unopened Fold." No one has touched it in decades. The museum allows it to rest undisturbed. Below it, a placard reads, "For the future hands who will know what to do." You do not write your name in the records. You fold it instead. You leave it by a river and walk on, because you were never meant to leave a legacy. You were meant to fold once, and now, it lives. You walk for days, through quiet valleys beside reed-filled creeks, past shrines where wind bells hang like silver syllables. You fold nothing at first. Not out of reluctance. Out of fullness. Though the story sits behind your ribs like a soft tide, ebbing gently, quietly sacred. Eventually, in the hush between footsteps, you take out a square of paper and fold it without thought. Your hands remember more than your mind does. It becomes a spiral, then a flame, then a hand, then somehow yourself. You smile. Because you've just folded your own memory. You reach a town with no names. It isn't drawn on maps. But it breathes. Children play near the rice paddies, their laughter soft, their feet dusty. You sit beneath a ginkgo tree near the temple steps. You do not introduce yourself. You do not need to. The boy approaches, maybe 7 or 8, his robes misbuttoned. a frog in one hand and a frown on his face. He holds out a paper star, crumpled. Well, mine broke, he says. You kneel. Unfold the shape gently. Refold it with care. I show him how to hold the center with a fingertip, so it spins like a wheel. His eyes light up. Oh, you're magic, he whispers. Well, no, you say, just patient. A woman nearby watches you. She steps forward, holding out a paper square. Hers is blue, edges frayed. I never learned, she says softly. You nod. Then you're ready. You guided her hand. Slow, gentle. She folds a petal. Then a wing. Then a roof. And then suddenly she has a house. She doesn't cry. She just exhales. And whispers that was inside me. You nod. It always was. You remain in the village for a season. Maybe two. You never teach it. You just fold. And they watch. And they fold beside you. Eventually, they stop asking for help. They bring their own papers. They begin to leave folds at the temple. Some leave them in trees. One child places hers in the mouth of a carved lion. They'll protect it, she says. You believe her. One evening, as stars scatter themselves into the black, you fold your final gift. Not a message. Not a mirror. Just a simple hinge. You walk to the edge of the village. You find a flat stone near the water, and then place the fold beneath it. You do not mark the spot. You do not return. The next village you find is smaller. No temple. Just 3 houses, a forge, and a stone bench. The bench is cracked. You sit. And a woman offers you soup. You thank her. You eat slowly. She says nothing. But before leaving, she places a folded spoon beside your bowl. You blink. It's shaped like a spiral. Your spiral. You look up, but she's already gone. The fold remains. And you realize something. You were never the only one folding. You were just the first to notice. Years pass. You grow slower. Your folds become simpler. The crane, a wave, a cup. You don't travel far anymore. But one day, a girl arrives. She holds out a folded shape. One you've never seen before. It unfolds like a question, then refolds as a bridge. She doesn't speak. She just nods and places it in your hand. And in that moment, you know. The folds are still becoming. And you are not the final ones. Just the fortunate middle. The hinge between silences. The final historical fact. Though no official documentation names one or his folds, a recurring symbol appears in oral passed down across rural Korea, a spiral inside a mirror inside a fox. Elders describe it as a secret map of the spirit, one that teaches those who listen how to carry memory without breaking it. Children learn the shapes by heart. They don't always know why, but they fold them anyway. The final obscure cultural note. In certain families, when someone passes, their belongings are not burned. Instead, one item is folded, clothing, letter, recipe, and placed in the highest drawer. Not to hide it, but to remind the living that memory should not be buried. It should be creased, carried, reshaped, and passed on. While you sit beneath another tree, though the paper rests in your lap, though the wind moves through the leaves above, their undersides flashing silver, you fold one last time, as it doesn't take long. You do it slowly, not because it's complex, but because you want to feel every motion. It becomes a boat, then a wave, then at last, the doors, and you leave it open for whoever comes next. You are still now. The folds are quiet. The night is full. And somewhere out there, paper rustles softly between the fingers of a child you'll never meet. A crane you taught by accident floats gently in a basin. A mirror you folded years ago rests beneath someone's pillow. A hinge sits tucked inside a stranger's coat. And none of it bears your name, but all of it remembers you. Because memory, real memory, doesn't echo through shouting. It hums. It folds into corners. And waits to be found. So let your breath slow now. Let your hands relax. You've walked through court corridors, whispered through petals, folded fear into freedom. You've carried silence without breaking, and turned it into a story. A soft, patient whole. The room around you fades. The last lantern flickers. The final fold rests beside you. No longer a secret. Not yet a legend. Just memory. Wrapped gently in paper. Waiting. And so with that, you sleep. And the folds keep watch.